Two stories, Cinderella and a folktale you have never heard, told in a village thousands of miles away. Completely different on the surface. Different names, different country, different century, and underneath almost exactly the same machine. Structuralism is the theory that went looking for that machine. And once you can see it, you cannot unsee it. For a lot of students, structuralism is just frightening word attached to a French name they can barely spell. By the end of this, it is going to be one clear idea you can carry into any text or in any examination. So, let me make you a promise. I'm not going to simplify the theory, I'm only going to simplify the way we talk about it. I have spent more than 20 years teaching this and just as often examining it. I have marked scripts where a strong student loses an easy mark. Not because they did not study, but because two theories blurred together in their memory. Structuralism is one of those blur points. Let us unblur it today. Here is the whole theory in one line. Meaning does not live inside things, meaning lives in the relationships between them. Hold on to that. Everything after this is just that one idea, walking into new rooms. It begins with a Swiss linguist named Ferdinand de Saussure. He asked a question that sounds almost too simple. Why does the word tree mean tree? The easy answer is because it points to that thing in the garden. Saussure said no. The word tree means a tree mostly because it is not a word three, not the word free, and not the word see. The meaning comes from the difference. He gave us the language for this. A word is sign, and the sign has two halves. The sound or the letter on the page he called the signifier. The idea it raises in your mind he called is signified, and the link between them is arbitrary. There is nothing tree like about the word tree. A French speaker says arbre and manages perfectly well. Now, follow the consequences because this is the hinge of the whole theory. If the link is arbitrary, then meaning cannot be coming from the thing itself. It must be coming from the system, from the whole pattern of differences that separates one sign from every other sign. Saussure gave us one more pair worth keeping. Every time you actually speak, this single act is called parole. But behind it sits a vast silent system. All the rules and relations you never stop to think about. That system is called langue. And structuralism is always more interested in the langue, not this one sentence, the system that makes this sentence possible. Now, watch the leap. This is where linguist turns into something much bigger. If language makes meaning through structure, what else does? A linguist named Roman Jakobson helped carry Saussure's idea out of grammar and into poetry, into how many messages really work. And once that door opened, thinkers walked straight through it. If language is a system, then maybe family relationships are a system. Maybe a food is a system. Maybe stories are system. That is the moment a theory of language became a way of reading the whole culture. The anthropologist Claude Levi-Strauss took it to myth. He said the meaning of the myth is not in its colorful details. It is in its oppositions. Raw against cooked, nature against culture, life against death. The story, he argued, is a machine for thinking through a contradiction the community cannot solve. Meanwhile, the Russian scholar Vladimir Propp has done something almost unsettling with folktales. In his book Morphology of Folktales, he read hundreds of them. And he found that underneath they run on the same small set of moves. A hero leaves home, a villain does harm, the hero is tested, the helper appears, the villain is defeated, order returns. And he counted them 31 of these functions. No single tale uses all of them, but they always arrive in the same order. So take Cinderella again, the lack, a girl with no status, the villain, a cruel household, the magical helper, the godmother, the taste, the ball, the recognition, the lost shoe, and the reward and the marriage. Now change every surface detail, turn her into a boy, turn the shoe into a ring, turn the ball into a battle. The machine keeps running. That is Propp's point. And it is structuralism's point. The surface is free to change, the structure holds. A later thinker, Greimas, tightened this even further into a small grid of roles he called actants: a sender, a receiver, a hero, a villain, a helper, an opponent. 6 slots that almost any story quietly fills. And notice the shape running through all of it: pairs, oppositions, hero and villain, home and away, lack and reward. Structuralism keeps finding meaning in these binary oppositions because a thing only means something against its opposite. Let me stop for 1 second because this is where it becomes genuinely useful for you. Everything so far was the machine. Now let us drop a real text into it and watch the machine turn. If this is the kind of teaching that helps you, the subscribe button keeps it coming to you every week. That is the only time I'll ask. Now, Macbeth. If you watched Monday's video, you already know the play. Read it now through a structuralist lens and something clicks. Macbeth is built almost entirely by oppositions: order against chaos, the natural against the unnatural, fair against foul, which the witches announce in the very first scene. A rightful king against the murderer, daylight against the night, in which sleep itself is murdered. A man against the monster he slowly becomes. A structuralist does not ask, was a Macbeth a good man who fell? That is a question about character. The structuralist asks a colder question: what system of oppositions is this play running on? What happens when the natural order is broken? And then, at the very end, violently restored. Read it that way, and the play stops being one man's private story. It becomes a machine about order, disorder, and the return to the order. A small deep shape you just saw in a fairy tale. Only now it is wearing a crown. Which brings us to the last figure and the most interesting one, Rolla Barthes. Barthes is a proud structuralist. In a book called Mythologies, he reads wrestling matches, soap advertisements, and even a plate of chips as a sign systems, exactly the way Saussure read languages. Culture as a text you can decode. But Barthes kept pulling the thread. In a famous short essay, The Death of the Author, he argued that the meaning of the text does not come from the writer's intention at all. It is produced inside the system of language, and it is released by the reader. Later, in a book he titled with just 2 letters, S and Z, he takes a single short story and breaks it into codes, showing how its meaning scattered inside of a setting. And here is the quiet drama of our whole story today. Barth pushes structuralism so hard that it began to come apart in his hands. Because if everything is a system of differences, then the meaning never fully lands. It keeps sliding. The crack has a name: post structuralism. And we will open it up in a few weeks. Before the questions, 2 warnings. Because this is exactly where marks are won and lost. First, Structuralism is not the same thing as Russian formalism, even though they are cousins. Formalism asks what makes this text literary? Its devices, its staggerness. Structuralism asks a bigger, colder question. What is the system of relations that produce meaning underneath many texts at once? Second, the structuralism has a blind spot, and its critics pronounce on it. By hunting for the timeless systems, it tends to ignore history, politics, power, and the living individual. A Marxist asks, where is the class struggle? A feminist asks, whose system is this? And who built it? A post structuralist asks, are you sure your need system holds still? Knowing that blind spot is not a weakness in your answer, it is the sign of a student who has actually understood. So, let me hand you a recognition template. In an examination, a moment question mentions meaning as a system of differences or binary oppositions or a hidden grammar shared by many stories. Your first thought should be structuralism. And the names travel in fixed pairs: Saussure and the sign, Jacobson and the functions of language, Levi-Strauss and the myth, Propp and folktale, Grammas and the actants, Barthes and the turn. If you want these laid out as a clean revision cards, they are on the website vishwanathbite.com on the theory pages. Now, the part you came for. Not old paper numbers, but the exact shapes examiners built from this topic. I will give you the answer first, then one line that turns a correct answer into scoring one. Who provides the founding idea of structuralism in linguistics? Ferdinand de Saussure. Everyone writes his name. The mark is in adding that he located meaning in difference within a system, not in reference to the real things. The two halves of Saussurean sign, signifier and signified. But the scoring word is the third one, arbitrary. Their bond is arbitrary, and that is the whole engine. Distinguish langue and parole. Langue is a system, parole is the individual act of a speech. The differentiator, structuralism studies the langue. Who wrote the morphology of folktale? It's Propp. Add that he reduced the tale into a fixed sequence of functions and that he came out of Russian formalism. That link is very often the real question in disguise. Who read the myth through binary oppositions? Claude Levi-Strauss in Structural Anthropology. The scoring line, the meaning sits in the oppositions, not in the plot. The actential model belongs to whom? Grammas. 6 roles. Almost any story, naming even 2 of the actants, show you truly know it. Who wrote the death of author and why does it matter? Rolla Barthes. And it matters because it makes the exact point where structuralism begins turning into post-structuralism. And here is the one good student still gets wrong. Is structuralism just another name for the Russian formalism? No, they are related, but they are not the same. Formalism asks, what makes a text literary? Structuralism asks, how meaning is produced by the systems of relations that lies beneath many texts. Write that single distinction clearly, and you have shown the examiner something most candidates simply cannot. If you take one image away from today, take this: structuralism, meaning through difference, in a system beneath the surface of the text. Pause the video and keep it. So, what has structuralism actually changed about the way you read? Before, a story was a thing you enjoyed and then interpreted. After a story becomes a system you cannot take part, a set of relationships and oppositions running quietly under the words. The characters may still move you, but the meaning structuralism insists was never in the characters alone. It was in the patterns, in the difference, in the machine. That is the idea we started with, now fully unpacked. Meaning does not live inside things, it lives between them. Two roads lead out of here. Next Wednesday, we stay with the theory and turn to post colonialism, where the question becomes whose system is this and what did it do to the people written out of it. And a little further on, we will watch structuralism crack open into deconstruction, where meaning stops sitting still together. Before you go, one question for the comments. And I want the real reason, not just a name. Take any story you love. What is the central binary opposition holding it together? Order and chaos, love and duty, freedom and control? Tell me the opposition and tell me the exact moment it appears. This is Dr. Vishwanath Bite. One big idea at a time. See you in the next video. Bye.